All right, YouTubers, thank you for coming back to another Todd E. Walnuts storage tote dive part 6, I believe we're at now. I'm only joined by Hannah right now. Heidi is curled up on the couch in a blanket. She may join us later. I don't know. If she does, I'll make sure to get her on camera here. I have quite a bit of stuff to show in this video, so I'm going to have to go a little bit quicker. So get comfortable and get a snack, and let's check these out. The first one here is the unrated widescreen edition of Dead House. This is going to be a little bit longer, this video, I believe. It's another movie that was put out by Brain Damage. You can see that there's quite a bit of blood and gore in this movie. A lot of practical effects, pretty cool kills and masks in that movie. The next one is the unrated edition of Cry Wolf, another little slasher movie. Kind of a teen, more modern teen slasher movie. It's okay at best. I just wanted to kind of show it. Here's a movie I really enjoyed. This is called Rest Stop. This is the uncut edition, and this was picked up at a Blockbuster. I also do have this in a twin pack with Rest Stop 2, and I think these movies are really well done. They're very suspenseful, and I would recommend watching this if you haven't seen it before. The next one is called Horror Business. And this one has a friend of Gratu Orloff in it. His friend's name is John Goris, if you can see that there. He sometimes joins Gratu on his live streams. And this also has a special appearance by Herschel Gordon Lewis, the godfather of gore, as well as Sid Haig, Lloyd Kaufman, Joe Bob Briggs. So this is a really good documentary, and if you've never seen this one, do check it out. It's called Horror Business. The next one is a modern horror movie starring the cute Jennifer Lawrence, House at the End of the Street. It was okay. It's a PG-13 horror movie. Just okay. Here's another Blockbuster pickup. I have this movie a couple different times. This is the special edition of Boogeyman. And this is the remake. Let me see. I'll double check. This is the remake from 2005. And then here is the sequel to the remake. This is the unrated director's cut of Boogeyman 2. There's the guy from Saw. His name is Tobin Bell. And this sequel came out in 2007. So you got the remake of Boogeyman and the sequel to the remake, Boogeyman 2. Here's a little Scream triple pack that I picked up at Goodwill a couple of summers ago. This is the first 3 Scream movies on DVD. You get Scream, Scream 2, and Scream 3. Nice little box set. I thought that was a good price for the 3 movies, $4.99. I guess this is more of a kind of a superhero movie. I guess it's the Marvel comic book film adaptation of Man-Thing in widescreen, but it has horror elements, so I do keep this with my horror movie collection. I think Man-Thing is awesome. And I have some urban hip-hop horror. This is Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror. It's a pretty cool slipcover. You can see the cover there. You got Danny Trejo. Of course, you have Snoop Dogg. And you have some other greats like Ernie Hudson and Billy D. Williams. You have Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. Brandy Roderick, who was a pinup model, and she did some Playboy spreads. Diamond Dallas Page, who was a wrestler. And a young Anson Mount, who was in a really good television series called Hell on Wheels, which was excellent. I love that show, and he was the main character in that show. This one comes with a pretty nice slipcover. The next one is the Hitcher remake, starring Sean Bean. This is the widescreen format of the movie, and it's a good watch. It's a fun, suspenseful watch. It's not quite as good as the original with Rutger Hauer and C. Thomas Howell, but this is pretty good. And it has over 20 minutes of deleted scenes, which is pretty significant. So I would recommend that if you like the original, give the remake a shot. Here's a movie by Lamberto Bava, who is Mario Bava's son. This is part of the Giallo collection, and it's called Delirium. Remastered in anamorphic widescreen. This is a very early DVD release from Shriek Show. So let's see here. I don't want to spend too much time per movie, but I believe this was released on DVD in 2002. This does have a Blu-ray release that was put out by 88 Films. It may have another one as well. The next one is a zombie film called Burial Ground. This is a pretty good movie. I really enjoy this one. It's an anamorphic widescreen. This is a great zombie movie put out by Shriek Show. The movie's from 1980. And this release was put out in 2002. This is the remake to My Bloody Valentine 3D. This was also purchased at a Blockbuster. I never watched it in 3D, but I bet it would look pretty good. There's a couple of scenes where I know they throw a pickaxe and it kind of rotates, it spins in the air as it's thrown. I bet you that looks pretty good. But it also does include the 2D version of the film, and that's the only way I've watched it so far. My Bloody Valentine 3D, which, let me see if I can see the year this was released, 2009. It's pretty good. Pretty good slasher. Not as good as the original. The original is a masterpiece, but the remake is good. Here's another movie from Mike O'Mahony. I talked about him a couple of different times now, and this one is also signed. It says Stay Deadly, and then he signed it Mike O'Mahony. This is Deadly Detour, the Goatman Murders. I have a 7 DVD box set of the complete Toxic Avenger. This is a really nice set, and it says it was personally curated by Lloyd Kaufman, and in this set, you get the Toxic Avenger Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, and you get a making of, and you also get all 13 episodes of the animated series and a bunch of extras. So you get the 4 movies and the animated series. So this is a fat pack right here. This contains all the movies on DVD, and then this is the DVD with the animated series in it. It's a really, really nice set. The next one is a documentary about Cropsey, not to be confused with Cropsey, the I guess the bad guy in The Burning. This is the urban legend of Cropsey from the haunted, what was it? It was an insane asylum, I believe, on the East Coast. I know I've seen this before, and I've seen other Cropsey documentaries, but it's kind of escaping me at the moment. But it says, growing up on Staten Island, filmmakers Barbara Brancaccio and Joshua Zeman had often heard the legend of Cropsey. For the kids in their neighborhood, Cropsey was the escaped mental patient who lived in an old abandoned Willowbrook mental institution, and he would come out at night to snatch children off the streets. This is a pretty creepy little documentary, and I enjoyed this. The next one is a kind of a different take on the Bigfoot Sasquatch mythos. This is called Sand Squatch, and this is about kind of I guess a Yeti or a Bigfoot who lives in the desert. Kind of a different take. This is Legend of the Sand Squatch. And there's a little warning box there at the bottom. Contains scenes of graphic violence, gore, and nudity. Sold. Where do I sign up? The next one is a DVD box set called the Jess Franco Collection. And in this box set, you get 4 movies from the great director Jesus Franco, or Jesus Franco, Jess Franco. You get Female Vampire, A Virgin Among the Living Dead, The Sadistic Baron von Klaus, and Oasis of the Zombies. And they each come on their own, in their own case. And I'll pop those out here in a second. This was a box set put out by Image Entertainment, and Jess Franco is known for his over-the-top violence and nudity in his horror movies. These are no exception. So the first one is the Euroshock collection, widescreen director's cut of A Virgin Among the Living Dead, Female Vampire. This was his wife, Lena Ramay. She was in a lot of his movies, most of them, I would say. This one is The Sadistic Baron von Klaus, a long-lost classic of gothic horror, and Oasis of the Zombies. So Oasis of the Zombies is from 1983. The Sadistic Baron von Klaus is from 1962. Female Vampire is from 1973. And a virgin among the living dead. 1971. The next one here is the digitally remastered special edition of Leif Jonker's Darkness, the vampire version. It's pretty gory movie. It says before Blade, before vampires, before the underworld, before the Forsaken, before 30 Days of Night, there was Darkness, internationally acclaimed underground cult classic. It's a two-sided cover, and here's what the other cover looks like. It's a little more gory, and actually I like that cover better. I will flip that, but I will do that off camera. The next one here is an Anchor Bay release, Don Coscarelli's Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead. Movie from 1993. Here's a classic, great head exploding scene. Everybody knows that scene. This is Scanners, put out by MGM. Movie from 1980. Hard to believe it's that old already, but it is. It says it's a climax that is literally mind-blowing. Another Anchor Bay release. This is Clive Barker's Hellraiser, the original one. This is the best one in the franchise, in my opinion. Movie from 1987. Not much to say about Hellraiser that you guys don't already know. Same thing with this edition. This is the widescreen edition of Army of Darkness, starring the great Bruce Campbell. That's a great cover, though. Movie from 1998. Not very many special features on the DVD release, but this has since been released on Blu-ray and 4K and some beautiful editions, but I still hang on to all my DVDs. This for a long time was one of my favorite releases. This is Zombie 2. This is the 25th anniversary special edition of the Fulci classic. Comes in this kind of a digipack style packaging put out by Shriek Show. Now, many of you know that Zombie, the original Zombie, is Dawn of the Dead. This movie has been released as Zombie, Zombie 2, and Zombie Flesh Eaters, but there really is no official Zombie 1 put out by Fulci. It's a pretty nice cover, but these digipack style covers, they don't last very long. As well as you take care of them, they still don't last. But this one comes with some pretty cool stuff on the inside. So you get 2 discs, because disc 1 is the feature, and disc 2 is all the bonus materials. And also you get a poster and a booklet and a chapter index card, and it shows some of the previous Shriek Show releases. And this one came with a comic book for Flesh of the Beast, which I also do own. Don't want to waste too much time here, so I still have a lot to show, and we're kind of up against the clock. And then the poster, which I'm not going to pull out, is just this image here, which is really cool. It's a small poster. And I'm just going to kind of keep moving on. And I'll put the cover on off camera, just to save a little time. But that is a classic cover. This is a great movie. The next one is called The Demon, starring the late great Cameron Mitchell. This was a movie from 1979, and this is a 2000 release from Diamond Entertainment. This is another slasher movie. Small rural town is terrorized by a bloodthirsty maniac. Women are stalked and killed. And I love these kind of movies. These are great. Here's another Jess Franco movie. This was put out by SRS Cinema years and years and years ago. This may be my very first purchase from SRS from probably 20 years ago or so, maybe longer. And this is Snake Woman. Also has a bonus feature called Dr. Wong's Virtual Hell. This DVD came out in 2005. It was directed by Jess Franco, and his wife Lena Ramey is in the movie. I believe she's in, well, I know for sure she's in the first one, the Snake Woman. I don't remember if she was in Dr. Wong's Virtual Hell. Oh, sorry about that. There's certain things you can't show, even though she had a bikini on. I still don't like to show that kind of stuff here on the channel. I don't want to get flagged for that. That was not nudity, but we don't want to show that here. The next one is a Umberto Lenzi zombie film called Black Demons. This is a great movie, actually, and it's about a voodoo curse that turns people into the Walking Dead. And I believe this was filmed in Africa, or it takes place in Africa. Let me double check that. I believe it is. It doesn't say on the back. But it says it's a seldom seen 1991 zombie film. If you have never seen this before, definitely do check it out. This is a really, really good movie. If you're a zombie fanatic, you'll definitely like this. But then again, if you're a zombie fanatic, you probably already did see that. So here's an independent slasher film from a fellow Wisconsinite. I live in the great state of Wisconsin, and that's where my compound is located. And this is from, what's his name? Kevin Summerfield. Kevin Summerfield wrote this movie, and he is a Wisconsin director. And this is called Don't Go to the Reunion. It's a high school style slasher film. And I'm trying to see if there's, okay, so at the very bottom down here, if you're interested in checking out independent horror films, go to slasherstudios.com and check out his releases. And I do recommend it. Here is a pretty classy slipcover. Monster Mayhem, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, starring Pete Cushing. Hammer film. This has a Blu-ray release, which I also do own, but I love that this edition is beautiful. And this is a, let me see here, a movie from 1969, and this DVD came out in 2017. What a great cover. Both covers. Next one is another low-budget zombie film called The Mad. This is an unrated edition, and this one's pretty violent. You can see Billy Zane right there. He stars in the movie. And this one came out in 2007. Not much else really to say about that. Just another, I guess, kind of run-of-the-mill zombie movie. Pretty entertaining, though. Pretty good kills. Here's a classic Stephen King adaptation. This is Pet Sematary, special collector's edition. Beautiful slipcover there. I really love that. What a classic movie. There's Gage, a cute little kid. What a heartbreaking scene. But this is a classic. This is another movie that I've never heard anybody ever say bad things about. The next movie here goes by two different titles. You probably will recognize it by The Ritual, also known as The Creeper. And this stars Hal Holbrook. And this was a very old, very early release on DVD. This is a great movie. I really love this movie. It has a great cast. It's about, was it 3 or 4 guys? I think they're lawyers. They're older gentlemen. They're lawyers. And they plan on going on a trip to the woods for a weekend getaway, a little camping. And they come across a maniac in the woods, and they're stalked one by one, and it's really, really well done. It's called Rituals, aka The Creeper. It does have a Blu-ray release, I believe was put out by Code Red some years back, a long time ago now. The next one is called Warlock Moon. This includes a Joe Bob Briggs segment. I mean, he's great. I think he's really, really good. And this is a very bizarre movie. There's Joe Bob. It's a horror, supernatural horror movie. Very, very bizarre. Very suspenseful. It's a fun watch. Next one was put out by Shriek Show. This is a Fulci movie called Demonia. This movie came out in 1990. Trying to see when it was released on DVD. I'm not seeing it. I'm sure most of you have seen this movie by now. If you haven't, check it out. It's a good watch. Kind of a take on witchcraft and Satanism. Here is The Changeling, and this stars George C. Scott and his wife, Trish Vanderveer. This is a classic ghost story. The DVD came out in 2010. I believe the movie came out probably about 1979 or 1980, if I had to guess. I'm not seeing it back here. But I'm sure most of you have seen this movie before. If you haven't, and if you like your haunted movies, haunted house, ghost stories, this is definitely a fun watch. Very creepy. The next one is a documentary from my friend John Borowski from Chicago. And that's John, that's how you spell John Borowski. This is one of the most deviant, one of the worst human beings to ever walk the planet. He was just a complete scumbag. If you don't know anything about Albert Fish, I recommend to buy this movie. Just go on eBay somewhere, find it, buy it. Don't do any research about this guy. Just watch this movie as a blind buy. It'll make your stomach turn. If you're a true crime fan, this is one of the worst monsters in the history of the world. And that's all I'm going to say. There's a lot I could say about this guy right now, but I don't want to ruin it for you. And if you don't plan on buying the movie and you still want to know about Albert Fish, just do a Wikipedia search. Or I'm sure here on YouTube there are documentaries about this guy. He was a complete monster. Here's a Monsters in the Woods type movie, The Evil Woods. This has been done a million times, but I still love watching these movies. You can see that campers are out in the middle of the woods and they're getting picked off one by one. It says a group of teenagers take a weekend camping trip to a party, have fun and relax. After pitching a tent in a desolate area, they become panicked when a stranger startles them and warns them of a killer ghost in the woods. They don't have any cell phone coverage, so I guess that's kind of a new twist to these movies. The ones that we grew up watching, they didn't have cell phones or pagers or anything like that. Now these kids, they go in the woods with their phones and text everybody. Here's a kind of a cannibal horror movie called Destined to be Ingested. Put up by a company called Midnight Releasing in 2010. Keep moving. So these next two are movies by the great legend George A. Romero. And this is Dead Time Stories Volume 1, Dead Time Stories Volume 2. These are anthology movies. This one has a really nice lenticular. So each of these movies, it's kind of in the same format as like a creep show. So there's a wraparound story with 3 segments in between. So you get Valley of the Shadow, Wet, and House Call. And for Volume 2, same format. You get the 3 segments called The Gorge, On Sabbath Hill, and Dust. And these are very enjoyable. I really like these. The next one here is called Invasion of the Blood Farmers. They're calling this a special deluxe widescreen edition. It's a great cover, if nothing else. And this has a segment from Fred Olen Ray, and I believe that alone is worth the admission for this, from Night Owl Theater. So you get a new episode, Fred Olen Ray's Night Owl Theater, but this came out a long time ago, over 20 years ago. They plant the living and harvest the dead. Original B-movie classic from the makers of Shriek of the Mutilated, which was a Bigfoot movie. There is the DVD from Retro Media, and there's a kind of a form in here, I guess. Hey, send me some free stuff. I would totally do that, but this thing's probably 25 years old, so I doubt I would get a response. But Invasion of the Blood Farmers. There you have it. I've mentioned many times I enjoy documentaries and true crime. This is a 2-disc limited edition called the Manson Family Movies, and it also includes a bonus disc called Sharon Tate Home Movies. This is signed right there in a gold Sharpie by the director right there. And this movie was movie slash documentary, whatever you want to call it, was made between the years of 1974 and 1979. And you have an interview with Charles Manson that is 30 minutes, and you have home movies of Sharon Tate that are 60 minutes. This DVD came out in 2005, and I just have to say that Sharon Tate was probably one of the most beautiful women ever. I mean, she's right up there with like Grace Kelly and Sophia Loren, those kind of beauties, those classic beauties like that. Sharon Tate was absolutely gorgeous. That's what the cover looks like. I recommend that. It's pretty good. Here's one from Something Weird Video called Blood Freak, about a killer chicken monster. Only the blood of drug addicts can satisfy its thirst. This is the special edition. I put this in a red case. I also put this one in a red case too. I do that sometimes with my movies. I buy a bunch of blank cases that are colored, and then when I feel it appropriate, like these two, there's a lot of red and black already in the cover, and to put it in a red case, I think, to me, it looks great. Same thing with this one. Just gives it a little more aesthetics. It's pretty nice looking additions here. So this movie came out in 1972. The world's only turkey monster anti-drug pro-Jesus gore film. And that's what you get from Something Weird, which I absolutely love the company, Something Weird Video. They're great. But both of these movies are a case of the cover is better than the movie, because those covers are pretty cool. Movies are meh. Okay, in the previous video, you remember I showed you some stuff about Chainsaw Sally. And there was a Chainsaw Sally show that I showed you. That was season 1. Now this is the Chainsaw Sally season 2 show. And this one's signed up. Now, this one was signed by Jimmy O. It was also signed by Chainsaw Sally. And it was signed by their daughter Lily, who was in the show. So this is season 2 right here, starring April Monique Burrill and directed by Jimmy O, her husband. And there is the disc, 2 discs, and that's what they also threw in like a little bumper sticker. I forgot about this. Forbidden Pictures, that's Jimmy O's company. There's his gorgeous wife. And these are the 2 discs for the series. I don't know if they did a season 3. I don't recall. If they did, I don't have it. I'm just going to slide these in really quick. So I showed you season 1 and 2 of the Chainsaw Sally show now. This is the Chainsaw Sally movie that was based on the show. And this, again, was signed by Jimmy and Monique. And this time Gunnar Hansen is in the movie. I believe he makes just a very short appearance in the movie. And Herschel Gordon Lewis also makes a cameo, I believe, in here. This must have been shortly before Gordon Lewis's death. This came out in 2007. And this one, season 2, doesn't have a year on the back. But these are fun, and I'm very glad to support independent film, especially independent horror films. I'm very glad to have these. You may also remember that I showed this edition in a different video. I believe it was part 5. This one it's the same movie, but it's a different edition. This one comes with a book signed by the author. This is a little booklet that the movie was based on, called A Measure of the Sin, and I'm just going to kind of flip through, but this is the book. There's Jeff signed it. He's the director. And Christy Nielsen signed it also. So that's why I have 2 of these. This was limited to 200, and I got number 194. And this one was sent to me as a freebie gift from Jeff, even though I really don't like to take freebies from independent filmmakers, but I did donate a lot to Jeff, and I'm not trying to say that as a bragging statement. I'm just proud of Jeff and the movies he makes, and I'm glad to contribute. And he's a great guy, and he sent me a couple gifts. He sent me the Criterion Halloween laser disc that from his own collection. He just sent it to me, so that just shows you what kind of a nice guy he is. If you've never seen any of these movies, if you haven't seen A Measure of the Sin or Tennessee Gothic, I do recommend you check those out. Jeff is a great guy. His movies are excellent. Here's is this a British? I think this is the US edition of Creepshow 2. And it has a really nice cover in that same kind of comic book style. That spindle's a little bit loose, but there's the chapter stops there. Part 2 is still a very fun watch, but it's a huge drop off from part 1. But I still enjoy it. It's great. Next one is another Italian cannibal movie called Eaten Alive, not to be confused with Tobe Hooper's killer crocodile movie Eaten Alive. This is a completely different movie. This was put out by Shriek Show. It was released on DVD in 2002. And I believe this movie came out in the early 80s, 81, 80. It has Ivan Razumov in it again. He was in a lot of these movies that were filmed in the Pacific Islands and overseas. I showed this once before. This is a documentary style film. It is a cannibalistic serial killer documentary style movie. It's a movie made to seem like it's a documentary, and it follows the daily life of an actual cannibal serial killer, and you get to see how he picks his victims and what he does to his victims. This is a very, very grotesque movie. It's probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen as far as offensive material. It's just really, really gross. And I know for a while this one, it was kind of hard to get. I think it had a very low print run, so it was hard to find this one. And I don't know if I'll ever watch this again, to be honest with you. One time was enough for me, and that was years ago, and it still kind of sticks with me. There's one particular scene in here that I almost had to turn my head, and I know that this is just a movie, and I know that these things really did not happen. But there was a scene in this movie that was just, it was taken too far, in my opinion. But that's long pigs, and the term long pigs is a term for humans that are going to be eaten. Culinary term for a human corpse, long pigs. That's why it's called that. Here's another serial killer movie. This is put out by Dark Sky Films. It's a 2-disc set, 20th anniversary special edition of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. This movie was excellent, and it's loosely based on the life of Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, who was his companion. These two guys were something else. I mean, they were unbelievable. So they were serial killers who traveled the countryside, and they claim to have hundreds of bodies. The police have only been able to verify probably, like, I think 20, 30-ish, which is, that's unbelievable. That's a lot. That's a huge number. But they claim it's like possibly 5 times more than that. But there was a time when Henry Lee Lucas was just admitting to every murder that was, that was brought up. And they started to even kind of make things up, and then he would, they were kind of playing mind games with him to see where his head was really at. And some of the detectives were making up stories, and then he was saying, yeah, I did that, and they were like, yeah, well, we just made that up, you couldn't have done it. So they knew he was full of BS, and but he was a monster, and Otis Toole was a monster. Michael Rooker plays the role of Henry in this movie. Very, very well done. I showed you guys a movie about, or a documentary about Joe Coleman in a couple videos ago. Joe Coleman did the art for this. And you can buy the original art on Joe Coleman's website if you have that kind of scratch. It's pretty expensive. There's a lot to say about this movie, but I'm going to leave it at that. I think if you haven't seen this movie, you definitely should check it out. There was actually a part 2 of this movie. I only saw that movie once, and I'm going to have to go back and revisit that. I don't own part 2. I would, if I can find it, I'll grab it. Not that it's hard to find, I just never think about it. But this is a great movie, and I like everything about it. I think the acting is great. The low budget feel to it, and the city scenes at night give you kind of that freaky feeling. Just check this movie out. It's definitely worth a watch. The next one is from IFC Midnight, and this is called Area 407. This is an alien abduction, UFO crash type movie. I picked this up at an FYE, cheap. The plane crash was just the beginning. Here's a box set, serial killer box set called Inside the Criminal Mind. It's a 30-episode documentary collection. Comes on these little skinny packs here. This is just hours and hours of crazy people. Just unbelievable, in the mind of some of the sickest and twisted people to ever walk the earth. This movie here was pretty rare. It's called Schizophreniac, the Horror Mangler. It's a low budget movie, but this one's pretty hard to find. This is the director's limited special edition. Schizophreniac, about a serial killer. It's a shot on video movie. It's from 2003. I think it's only rare because it didn't have a very high print run. This is not a horror movie, but I don't know how this got tossed in there, but I love this movie, The Sword and the Sorcerer. It's a sword and sandal fantasy movie. I put it in a red case. It's put out by Anchor Bay. This has a Blu-ray release now. It's very good. I'll never get rid of that. I love that movie. Here's a creature in a rubber suit monster movie called Octoman, the 40th anniversary edition, put out by Retro Media. You get a bonus movie called The Cremators. There's the Octoman. Okay, kind of limping to the end here. Starting to get a little tired. Here's the 20th anniversary edition of Evil Toons, starring David Carradine. It is a live action mixed with animation, also put out by Retro Media. There's the very gorgeous Michelle Bauer And there's Monique Gabriel. Beautiful women. Alright, I'm going to pause it here and get a drink. So moving right along, and I'm going to try to get through this next stack here in about 10 or 15 minutes at the most. That'll put me around an hour, I believe. I kind of lost track every time I break up the clips. But this is the sequel to the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, unrated. These movies are excellent. These remakes are better than the originals, I think. They're scarier, they're more graphic, more violent, and they're just, I think they're funner to watch. They're much scarier than the original movies. Okay, let me see here. Now here is another case of a fan-made movie, 3 on a Meat Hook. This never had a DVD release for the longest time. This was a VHS transfer to DVD, and this is another good fun slasher movie. And this is a take on the Ed Gein story. Ed Gein was a cannibal serial killer from the state of Wisconsin, where I live at. This is very, very loosely based on the Ed Gein killer. Ed Gein wasn't really a serial killer. He was more of a graveyard ghoul. He would dig up bodies. He did kill a couple people, but he was more or less, he would dig people up, which that doesn't make it right. I'm just saying, you know, I guess I'm splitting hairs here, but this movie is fun, but it's not the definitive Ed Gein story, but it's still a fun watch. It's very creepy. The next two are urban legends. I was telling you guys a couple times now that for a time I was really getting into this stuff, and this was from the Biography channel. You guys remember the Biography channel from back in the day? I don't even know if it exists anymore. This was season 1 of Urban Legends. It was a TV show. It was really fun. It was fun to watch that stuff. And then there was another popular TV series called Urban Legends. This was on TLC. This was hosted by Natasha Henstridge. And these were both television series. Very fun to watch those. I enjoy those quite a bit. Here is a sci-fi movie called Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet, starring Basil Rathbone. And the movie was made in 1965, and it was supposed to be all the way in the future to the year 2020. But I watched this movie and it didn't say anything about COVID, so they weren't very accurate at all. Here's another fan-made. For the longest time, this was only a DVD release. This since has a Blu-ray release from Scream Factory, but for the longest time, the only way you could watch it was on VHS or from this fan-made edition of Cellar Dweller. And these guys really used to do good stuff. See how it's purple? That means it was burned. But they even had the little silk screening on there. Sometimes they would put stickers, sometimes they had silk screening. And they were only charging back in the day like $10 per DVD, which was a steal back then. Cellar Dweller. I'm sure most of you have seen that by now. It's got a Blu-ray release. There's another retro media movie called Scalps. This is the 20th anniversary deluxe edition. Haunted Indian Burial Ground slasher movie. I enjoy this quite a bit. I think it's a great movie. Great scenes. Here's Guillermo del Toro's Cronos, 10th anniversary special edition on DVD. I enjoy these movies quite a bit as well. These are really fun watches. Here's a movie I got from Bill from Code Red DVD years ago. This is not a Code Red release, but he traded some of his overstock to, I don't remember if it was Full Moon. It must have been Charles Band. So I guess Bill from Code Red sent Charles a box of his overstock, and Charles sent to Bill a box of these, and Bill gave me one of these. This is called Jigsaw. It's not to be confused with the Saw series. This is not part of the Saw series. It's kind of a Saw ripoff. movie from 2002. Here's a kind of a modern teen slasher movie called Smiley. I like that mask. It's pretty funny. It's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, here's Night of the Living Dead 3D, starring the great late Sid Haig. This was a pretty cheap buy, but I always wanted to get this, even though I know it's not that great. I always wanted this movie just to have it in my collection. Never watched it on 3D, though. I did see the 2D version of it. Here's a great horror anime called Lady Death, the motion picture. This was chewed up by one of my dogs years ago. Not any of the dogs I have now. I used to have boxers, and one of the boxer pups chewed this up years ago. Both of the boxer girls are long passed away now. But this movie came out in 2004. I had my boxers. I actually had 3 boxers, but the first boxer I had her name was Felony. That was my first boxer. She was a great dog. And then my second boxer, her name was Meadow. Her name was Meadow, and I was kind of after Meadow Soprano. And I had her bred with another purebred boxer, and I kept one of the puppies, and we named her Ashley. And both of those girls all 3 of those boxers were beautiful dogs, but they're all gone. They're passed away now. So I have the Weimaraner Hannah, and I have the Vizsla Heidi. The next one is a 20th anniversary 2-disc special edition of Monster Squad, and this is a great movie. This has a Blu-ray release by now. I think it has a 4K release by now, but this is a very fun watch. Here's an urban legend that happens to be in my very state of Wisconsin. This is called The Beast of Bray Road, based on a true story. If you guys are interested in that, you can always Google it. The movie itself is okay. It's not great, but the story is excellent. It's well, I won't give any of it away. If you want to read about it, go check out The Beast of Bray Road, Wisconsin wiki. And here is a 7-part series called Monsters Among Us. This is the origins of horror's greatest legends, a 7-part series documentary. It's really, really good. It's put out by Mill Creek, I'm sorry. And the last piece to show, I guess, this is not really horror related, but I know there are some guys on this channel that like their comic books. This was a PBS series called Superheroes, The Epic History. Includes 2 DVDs, a book, and collectibles, so you get kind of a history of comic books. Comes in this nice kind of a foil slipcover here. You can see some of the stuff you get on the back. And inside the slipcover you have a hard cardboard box, and I'm going to have to pause it for a minute because that cover is on there pretty tight. Okay, so inside this little hard shell box you see some of the characters on the cover, and it was just a little bottom portion of the box. A very heavy, sturdy box. So you get, it's a little pamphlet here, like a little booklet called A 4-Color Life by Roy Thomas, a personal perspective. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but it just kind of shows some of the history of comic books. You could probably find this on eBay pretty cheap. There you can see Stan Lee. And just kind of goes through and shows some of the history of the comic books. And then you have a hardcover book called Collector's Edition, 6 Immortal Heroes. Shows those 6 heroes on the cover. It's called a PBS exclusive edition. This was put out in 2014. This is a first edition. I believe I bought this at Target years ago in 2014, almost 10 years ago now. So just kind of quickly to go through this. Very high quality glossy pages. couple DVDs here. You get Pioneers of Television, Superheroes, narrated by Ryan Seacrest. A DVD. And you get Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle, hosted by Liev Schreiber. And then you get a little pack of collector's cards. Let me take that band off. We'll take a quick look through. So it says Major Victory Comics, 10-cent price sticker. 1944, talks a little bit about it. You got Catman, America's Best Comics, Amazing Man Comics, Amazing Man, Air Fighters Comics, Wonder Comics, Speed, Skyman, Prize, and Planet. So that'll be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, if you want to show a little support, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10K. I'm about 200 and something away. When I do, I'm going to give some stuff back to the community. I'm going to have a little contest and give some good stuff back just to show appreciation to you guys. Thank you for watching. Take care. And for me and Miss Hannah, we bid you a good weekend. Miss Heidi, she's still on the couch sleeping. And she says bye too. Later.